This is the story of a perfectly ordinary snake, one who lived a simple life, being fed pigs and chickens by the humans who feared his presence. His days were spent basking in the sun and slithering through the underbrush, blissfully unaware of the greater forces at play in the world around him. But one fateful day, everything changed. By sheer accident, he devoured a wandering human cultivator, a misstep that filled his belly with more than just flesh. In that moment, something within him shifted. His mind, once simple and instinctual, bloomed with intelligence. Knowledge of cultivation flooded his being, ancient secrets and powers he had never imagined. And so this ordinary snake began an extraordinary journey. Leaving behind the life of easy meals and careless existence, he set out on the divine path of cultivation, seeking power, wisdom, and survival in a world far larger and far deadlier than he had ever known. As dusk settled over the village, a frenzy erupted. Residents scrambled like ants fleeing a storm, hustling towards their homes with the same urgent energy as someone who's remembered they left the stove on. A voice boomed over the commotion, urging them to hurry before nightfall, as though the setting sun was some kind of doomsday clock ticking down. "Lock your doors, secure your windows, keep that damn black snake out." The man ringing the bell added a few extra clangs for good measure, probably hoping the noise alone would keep the monster at bay. "Remember what happened at the mountain god temple?" a villager whispered, eyes wide. "2 people gone. Just like that. One was even a Taoist." "Yeah, but I heard there haven't been any recent attacks," another chimed in, clearly trying to comfort themselves. "It's just chickens and ducks going missing. Nothing major." "Chickens, ducks, and your sense of security," muttered a young boy tugging at his father's sleeve. "Let's bring our chickens inside tonight. Sure, it'll stink, but better than losing them, right?" The father grimaced. "Can't argue with that. Last thing we need is old black snake having chicken wings for dinner." As they rushed home, passing the mountain god temple, a sudden chill swept through the air as if someone had just opened the fridge and left it standing wide open. The father shivered, muttering something about how the air never felt right near the temple these days. Inside that very temple, coiled in the shadows, the infamous black snake watched the villagers with a pair of glowing reptilian eyes. "Are they talking about me again?" the snake wondered, bemused. Its long, slick body shifted ever so slightly, reflecting the faint light like an oil slick on water. "I don't even feel that old," it mused. "And frightening? Please, these humans are so dramatic." It flicked its tongue thoughtfully. "Though I guess eating 2 of them a few days ago didn't help my reputation much." The snake's mind drifted back to that incident. Ah, yes, the mountain god temple massacre, as it had come to be known in local gossip. One of those humans kept crying out for the mountain god's help, the snake recalled, an odd sense of guilt surfacing. "I thought the poor thing was suffering, so I granted him peace." By granted him peace, of course, the snake meant devoured him whole. Not long after, another human had stormed into the temple, red-faced and hollering about some elixir, acting like a man on the edge. He had demanded the release of his friend, who had apparently been cultivating there for a decade. The snake, of course, didn't understand a single word, but figured why not reunite the two? In what it believed was a gesture of compassion, it had promptly swallowed the second man as well. And yet, that seemingly thoughtless act had changed everything. In that moment, the snake had experienced something strange, a kind of clarity. It had developed a demon core, that mystical object of legend, and with it, a newfound intelligence. It could finally comprehend its surroundings, the ebb and flow of danger, the power lurking in the world beyond the mountains. Funny how 2 accidental meals could lead to enlightenment, it mused wryly. That was when it had realized the real threat: human cultivators. Those black-clothed snake catchers, with their ruthless efficiency, had nearly turned it into a stylish handbag more than once. The memory of the flower python being hunted down like it was, nothing still gave the snake chills. Humans. They train and fight their way through stages. Chi refining, foundation establishment, core formation, and then boom, they're flying around like they own the sky. The snake had once considered itself lucky for evading capture, but with its newfound awareness, it understood that luck had been its only ally. How embarrassing, it thought. I've been a fugitive from cultivators all this time, and I didn't even know it. No longer. The snake had grown smarter, wilier, and most importantly, pragmatic. Human cultivators were bad news. Chasing after birds or foolish humans was far too risky now. It had turned to a safer, albeit less glamorous option: poultry theft. As its stomach grumbled in hunger, the snake reflected on its new diet with mild disappointment. Chickens and ducks, they barely filled its belly, and it seemed like the villagers were catching on. But then a sly thought crossed its mind. I hear there's a wealthy family in Chenny town, and they raise pigs. Now that would be a meal worth the effort. Coiling out from the shadows, the snake slithered into the village, its sleek body moving silently across the ground like a whisper in the night. As it entered one of the homes, its attention was drawn to a portrait on the wall. The humans in the painting looked smug, as if their existence itself was a statement. Humans and their names, the snake thought, suddenly struck by the absurdity of it all. Well, why shouldn't I have one too? It reflected for a moment before smirking internally. They keep calling me Old Black Snake. How about Shui? Yes, Shui, a name as calm as a river, yet hiding the depths beneath. The black snake, or rather, Shui, let out a quiet hiss of satisfaction. After all, a name was just the first step in claiming its destiny. Shui slithered into Chenny town with his newfound confidence and a belly still full of that last village's poultry. But what he was seeing now, pigs, glorious, fat, juicy pigs, was nothing short of a divine feast. Just looking at them made his body tremble, his size increasing slightly, the sheer anticipation practically expanding his scales. He chuckled darkly to himself. Merely gazing at these pigs is making me feel full. Imagine what'll happen when I actually eat them. But caution came first. Shui paused, his glowing eyes flickering over the farmhouse. No sounds, no movement. The humans were fast asleep, blissfully unaware of the looming disaster outside. Confirming their slumber, Shui descended upon the pigs like a king taking his throne by devouring everything in sight. His fangs pierced the first pig with precision, and it barely had time to squeal before it was nothing but a memory. Shui inhaled more, his long body coiling as he engulfed them with a kind of gluttonous grace. One pig, smarter than the rest, made a desperate bid for freedom, squealing in terror. Shui paused, his meal interrupted, and clicked his tongue in mock concern. You fool. Do you want to wake the humans? They'll kill me, and I'd rather avoid that inconvenience tonight. It's not like you're going to live, so why make it worse for both of us? Of course, the pig didn't understand. It kept squealing, trying to wriggle free. Shui sighed, his eyes narrowing. Fine, if you insist. And with that, he swallowed the pig whole, cutting off the noise once and for all. After the feast, Shui let out a massive burp, his eyes gleaming with satisfaction. Now that was a meal, he said, settling in for a little rest. It was still the dead of night, and the humans wouldn't stir for a while yet. He could afford to lounge a bit, letting the food digest. The remaining pigs cowered in silence, frozen in fear, their minds too simple to process what they had just witnessed. An hour later, Shui was jolted awake by voices approaching the pig pen. He tensed, listening intently. "You're sure no one saw us?" one voice whispered. "Of course. Chen Fan's dead, isn't he? "What's he going to do, complain?" replied the second voice, cold as a winter breeze. Shui's heart sank. He squinted through the darkness, seeing two figures dragging something toward the pen. Great, he thought, humans and their dramatic problems. Can't even let me digest in peace. The two men stopped near the pen, dropping the limp body of a man. "He stopped breathing," one of them said, nudging the body with his boot. "Useless. Let's just feed him to the pigs." Shui's panic spiked. "Oh no, not this. I didn't sign up for this mess." As they left the body behind, Shui leaned down from his perch, eyeing the corpse suspiciously. He had a bad feeling about this, a kind of "I really shouldn't have eaten all those pigs" kind of bad feeling. And then the corpse's eyes snapped open. Shui nearly uncoiled himself from the tree, hissing in shock. Did that dead guy just... The body rose stiffly at first, then more fluidly, as if waking from a long sleep. "Finally," the man said, his voice echoing with eerie authority. "I have been reincarnated." Shui's forked tongue flicked nervously. "Oh, great. Just what I need. A talking zombie." The man continued, blissfully unaware of Shui's terror. "I am Chen Fan, and by some twist of fate, I have returned to this world in this lowly form." His grin widened, wicked and confident. "But no matter, I will avenge my previous self. None of those who wronged me shall escape." Shui, meanwhile, was calculating the best escape route. "Okay, Mr. Corpse, you do you, but I need to go." He began to edge away, but the man suddenly turned, his sharp eyes locking onto Shui. "A spirit beast? Here? What luck," the man sneered. "I should have known something was wrong. You're insignificant, though, not worth my time." "Not worth your time?" Shui thought, his scales bristling. "You have no idea what I'm capable of." But then again, this guy was probably some high-level cultivator or immortal. Shui's mind raced. Great, just great. He's going to kill me. All because I ate a few pigs. Chen Fan, now fully settled into his new body, released a surge of spiritual energy, casting an aura so intense that it knocked the remaining pigs back. Shui's mind raced. This is it. He's casting some deadly spell. I'm dead. Should I try to spit the pigs out? He briefly considered it, but he'd already digested most of them. His body was a ticking time bomb, and now this freak was about to set it off. The man's energy grew, taking the form of a powerful dragon-like figure. "Ah, the demon god Cauldron," he murmured in awe. "So it's reincarnated with me." Meanwhile, Shui misread the entire situation. This guy's going to blast me. I have to act now. In a fit of desperation, Shui lunged forward, mouth wide open, and devoured Chen Fan in a single gulp. For a moment, there was silence. Did I just eat a reincarnated immortal? Shui's eyes widened. Oh no. What have I done? He slithered frantically, knowing that staying in this town was no longer an option. But from within, Chen Fan's voice echoed. "Mere spirit beast dares to challenge an immortal." Shui gasped as a sudden burst of energy tore through his insides and blood spilled from his mouth. "I gave you a chance to flee," Chen Fan's voice boomed. "Now suffer the consequences." With a swift, brutal punch, Chen Fan shattered Shui's demonic core. The pain was unbearable. Shui writhed in agony, blood splattering the ground as his body began to collapse. His vision blurred, and a single thought crossed his fading mind. If I'd known it would end like this, I'd have skipped the pigs. Chen Fan, feeling triumphant, reached to absorb Shui's remaining essence, only for the demon god Cauldron to appear, glowing ominously. A sudden, overwhelming light filled the air, and Chen Fan's cocky grin faltered. What? Why is the demon god assisting a mere snake demon? The light surged, transforming into a spectral dragon that lunged at Chen Fan, obliterating him in a single strike. As Shui's body disintegrated under the sheer force of the energy, Chen Fan's final words echoed, This is so unfair. As dawn's light crept over the horizon, Shui emerged from his shed skin, wincing as his body stretched painfully in its new form. The previous night's chaos had left him a little worse for wear, but something felt different, aside from the fact that all the pigs he had devoured had mysteriously returned. Shui blinked at them, momentarily dumbfounded. "How are you all back? Did I just dream about eating you?" His confusion was interrupted by the sharp tug of pain on his now longer tail. One of the pigs, with the audacity of a creature with no sense of self-preservation, had decided Shui's new tail was the perfect chew toy. Shui growled, hoisting the pig up by its snout, his patience wearing thin. "Are you seriously trying to bite me? Have you learned nothing?" he hissed, tightening his grip around its neck. The pig squealed in terror, squirming frantically, and Shui let it go with a warning snarl. "If you don't cut it out, I'll eat you again, and this time you won't be coming back." The pig bolted, leaving Shui standing there staring down at his sore tail. "Unbelievable," he muttered, inspecting the damage. His annoyance grew. "I survive an immortal trying to kill me, and now I'm getting bullied by pigs? How did my life spiral into this mess?" He huffed, feeling the ache of his body where his demon core had been. Destroyed, he recalled, grimacing. That core had been his life, his cultivation. Now it was gone, and without it he was as good as dead. Or so he thought. His eyes narrowed as a realization hit him. Wait, if my demon core was destroyed, how am I still alive? Shui buried his head in the dirt, quite literally, in a moment of dramatic self-pity. "It's hopeless," he mumbled, muffled by the soil. "I'm useless without my core." But then a sharp twinge in his belly pulled his attention back to reality. His head snapped up. He glanced down at where his core should have been and blinked. There, nestled in place of his lost demon core, was something else, a faint but powerful glow. The demon god Cauldron. "Oh, you've got to be kidding me, that thing!" He stared at his belly, then at his tail, as if expecting an explanation from his own body. "Did it save me?" And as if in answer, the cauldron pulsed with energy, flooding his system with power. "Of course," he groaned. "Now I'm part cauldron." Shui let out a sigh, but it was quickly replaced with a strange sensation. He realized he could now see inside his body. No, not just his body. He looked over at the pigs, and his gaze seemed to pierce straight through them. Wait a minute, is this X-ray vision? Divine perception? His tail flicked excitedly. This is way better than my old core. With his newfound ability, he scanned the area, marveling at how easily he could spot everything around him. Hunting is going to be a breeze now. I can see exactly what's inside every creature. His eyes glinted as he looked back at the pigs, hunger gnawing at him again. I think I might treat myself before I head out. But before he could indulge, a sharp pain shot through his head. Oh great, what now? Curling his body into a circle, he tried to focus, realizing that a massive amount of knowledge was flooding his brain, the cultivation paths of Chenfan. "Well, isn't that just convenient?" he muttered, gritting his teeth. "Now I've got that idiot's memories too. Can't wait to remember all his dumb choices." Still, he needed to heal. That much was clear. He recalled one of Chenfan's techniques and awkwardly began to replicate it. "All right, heaven and earth are the chessboard, and all beings are the pieces," Shui mumbled, trying not to roll his eyes at the pompous mantra. But to his surprise, the technique worked. Faint spiritual energy flowed from the demon god Cauldron, mending his tail and filling him with strength. "Oh, wow," Shui blinked in awe, feeling lighter, more powerful. "It's like I just downed an entire stash of spiritual herbs, and here I thought meditation was only good for self-important cultivators." As his injuries healed, Shui coiled his body tighter, almost as if hugging himself. "I mean, meditation should be for cultivation, not just healing," he mused, feeling more like a philosopher than a demon snake. But without a demon core, how am I supposed to... The thought stopped short. The cauldron. The demon god cauldron had taken the place of his core. It had to be. So that's it then. My core's been replaced, Shui muttered. Guess that means I'm stuck with this thing. He quickly shoved that thought aside. Whatever, I'll figure it out later. Right now, I need to leave this cursed place before more humans come poking around. But first, his gaze turned to the pigs who were mindlessly milling about. A wicked grin spread across his face. I think I'll indulge a bit more before I go. After all, what's the point of surviving if you don't enjoy yourself? Shui lounged in the river, scrubbing his scales with the most luxurious cleaning tool he could find, an unfortunate rabbit. His long tail flicked lazily as the river's cool water ran over his body. Nothing like a good bath after several days of enlightenment through human pellets, he muttered, using the rabbit's fuzzy belly to scrub his back. The poor creature squirmed, but Shui paid it no mind. Hey, you're lucky, bunny. You're part of history. How many rabbits get to say they were a loofah for a future god beast? Since devouring that Chang Fan idiot, Shui's mind had been buzzing with new insights. Every day he'd wake up with fresh revelations, some useful, some utterly ridiculous. Today, for instance, he finally grasped the intricacies of what humans called the cultivation system. Turns out, demon beasts like him had their own ranking system too. Spiritual stage, establishment stage, core formation, nascent soul, blah blah blah. Shui currently sat at the peak of the spiritual stage, which meant... what exactly? That he was at the same level as a glorified human chi refiner? Wow, how impressive, he mumbled sarcastically, rubbing his tail harder with the rabbit. Fine. I'll cultivate like the humans. I'll chant those stupid lines from Changfan's dumb manual. And so he began, practicing in a secluded cave where the spiritual energy gathered around him like a divine hug from the universe. He struck the cave wall with his tail for good measure, watching cracks form from the impact. 1 week of practice, and I've got longer horns, tougher scales. But why am I shrinking? He glared at his body in disbelief. I used to be 30 centimeters of pure terror. Now I'm a pitiful 6 centimeters. I could fit in a child's pocket. His fury was cut short when a bird landed beside him as if mocking his reduced size. In a flash, Shui whipped his tail and reduced the bird to nothing but a feathered corpse. Laugh at me now, will you? He sneered, swallowing the bird in one gulp. At least my speed and power have improved. I'm like a miniature death machine. Shui marveled at how fast his body moved now, his once bulky form replaced by something more flexible, nimble. He could probably take down prey twice his size now, no problem. And sure enough, he spotted his next meal, a wild boar feasting obliviously on a patch of watermelons. Shui's eyes glinted with predatory glee. Perfect, boar for dinner. He stealthily gathered some rocks, figuring they'd be more than enough to subdue his latest victim. The boar hadn't even noticed him approaching from behind, still lost in watermelon bliss. But just as Shui inched closer, a rock slipped from his mouth. His heart dropped. The boar turned its head, locking eyes with Shui. The air grew tense, and then it roared. Holy! Why does this boar look like it's about to eat me? Shui screeched, scrambling backward. The boar's spiritual energy flared and it charged. Shui ran as fast as his tiny body could manage, cursing his luck. A wild boar, a regular old boar, and yet it's got the nerve to chase me like I'm the prey. What kind of world is this? He was cornered. There was no more running. Fine, Shui growled, spinning around to face the boar. If I die, I'm taking you with me. Using his tail, he hurled the rocks at the charging beast, expecting little more than a bruised snout. But instead, the rocks hit with devastating force, obliterating the boar in one strike. Shui blinked in disbelief as the animal's body crumpled. "Wait, what?" he whispered, staring at the carnage. "Did I kill it? With one hit?" He circled the boar's body cautiously. "Nah, no way. It's probably faking it. Boars are tricky like that." So, just to be sure, he threw more rocks. A lot more rocks. When he was absolutely certain the boar was dead, he finally let out a relieved sigh. "Ooh, that was close." Recalling his earlier pig pen encounter, Shui wasn't taking any chances. He dismembered the boar, ensuring that head, limbs, and torso were separate. "You better safe than sorry. No boars coming back to haunt me, thank you very much." As he bit into the boar's meat, he noticed it was firmer than the pigs he'd been eating, and there was a weird taste. Shui paused, spitting out the meat. "Hold up, this thing has a demon core, doesn't it? Of course it's not a regular boar, it's a pig demon." The realization hit him hard. "Great, just what I needed. Another headache. You can't eat demon cores raw. The spiritual energy's too violent. I'll explode," he grumbled, glaring at the boar. "But wait, if wild beasts like tigers eat demons, don't they eat the cores too? They're not exploding left and right, so maybe—" A sly grin spread across Shui's face. "Maybe I can eat it too." He opened his mouth wide, attempting to swallow the demon core whole. It was a struggle, but eventually it slid down. Instantly, a bright light radiated from his belly. "Hot, hot, hot!" Shui yelped, feeling the demon god Cauldron within him start to absorb the core. Spiritual energy surged through his body, and in a blink, he felt the breakthrough. "Yes, the second spiritual stage," Shui exclaimed, admiring his new spiked scales, two of which had turned golden. Testing his strength, he smashed a nearby rock with ease. "I'm practically invincible now." But his triumphant moment was cut short. From the corner of his eye, he saw a figure, a boy, a human, wielding a weapon. Shui froze, sweat dripping down his scales. "Oh no, humans again. Why is it always humans?" The boy raised his weapon toward Shui, and for a moment he flashed back to Changfan. "Don't tell me this kid's like him," Shui groaned, readying himself. The boy lunged, weapon poised to strike, but with one swift motion, Shui shattered the weapon with his tail. "I'm out of here," Shui muttered, turning tail and fleeing. "Humans are way too scary. I need to disappear before his friends show up. I've had enough near-death experiences for one day." The boy exhaled, his whole body trembling with relief, as if he'd just narrowly dodged a cosmic-sized catastrophe. "Father," he called out, his voice still shaky. "The old black snake killed it. The demonic pig beast that killed Mother. It spared my life." His voice carried an air of awe and disbelief, like someone recounting a dream that was too wild to make sense. Meanwhile, back at the forest, Shui was making his way up a rugged staircase, trying not to trip over his own tail. "Spared his life," Shui muttered to himself, flicking a pebble away with irritation. "What do they take me for? A serial killer?" He glanced behind him, noting that no one seemed to be following. No pitchfork-wielding mob, no angry boy shouting revenge. The quiet should have been comforting, but instead, it set his mind spinning. That kid, there was something off about him. What kind of boy faces down a snake demon thing like Shui and lives to talk about it? Shui paused on the steps, shaking his head. "Am I overreacting?" He let out a derisive laugh. How could a future sky-splitting beast like me be scared of a kid? His voice echoed in the empty forest, as if the trees themselves were mocking him. What's next? Will I cower at squirrels? Finally, the old mountain god temple loomed into view, standing at the end of the stairway like a silent guardian. Shui sighed, a rush of nostalgia washing over him. This place, this ramshackle temple, had been the site of his enlightenment, a fancy word for where I realized eating humans gave me insights. He had to admit, though, the temple had a certain aura of fortune to it, even if it was covered in moss and falling apart at the seams. Maybe the mountain god had smiled on him once, and maybe, just maybe, it had happened again. Shui entered the temple, his tail swishing as he set down 3 incense sticks with practiced precision. "All right, mountain god," he announced grandly. "I'm back." He stood there for a moment, expecting, well, something. A gust of wind, a divine voice. Instead, a delightful aroma wafted through the air, tickling his nostrils. His eyes widened in astonishment. Before him was a veritable feast, laid out as if the gods themselves were planning a dinner party. "Is this for me? No, wait, offerings," he grinned, sidling up to the food. "Look, mountain god, we can't let this go to waste, right? That would be sacrilegious." With a flick of his tail, Shui began helping himself to the offerings, tearing through dumplings and roasted meats like a starved wolf. Between bites, he muttered, I'll worship after. I'll be more genuine on a full stomach." Finally, after devouring every dish, Shui settled into a prayer posture. All right. Mountain god, give me strength, get rid of this stupid demon heart, and help me crush my enemies, or at least make me big again. Amen, or whatever. Just as he finished, his ears perked up. Voices. He turned sharply, catching snippets of conversation. "Where will you run?" someone sneered, followed by the unmistakable sound of crying. Shui's heart sank. "Oh no, not humans again." A woman burst into the temple, her face pale with terror, chased by several brutish men. The lead thug, a guy dripping with arrogance and sleaze, motioned to his lackeys to stay outside. "I'll handle this," he grinned, a sadistic glint in his eye. They called him Master Q. Shui slithered behind the mountain god's statue, feeling trapped. Of course, just when I thought I was safe. With a quick glance, he activated his X-ray vision, surveying the temple layout. One exit. One. He was cornered. "Wonderful," he muttered. "I'm going to die here, surrounded by creepy humans." Through the temple walls, he could see Master Q and the terrified woman. Master Q sneered, towering over the girl. "No woman defies me," he said with a voice so dripping with arrogance that Shui almost gagged. "Choose your words wisely, or your fate will be worse than death." The girl, clearly on the edge of panic, gripped a small knife. "I can't kill you," she spat, her voice trembling but determined. "But I'll take my own life before you get what you want." From behind the statue, Shui rolled his eyes. "This guy again." The name Master Q rang a bell, a dirty, ugly bell. He remembered the stories from the pig pen. This was the same guy who'd beaten that fanboy to death and tossed him to the pigs. Great. Another human with questionable morals and an even worse sense of timing. Shui's eyes narrowed. He observed Master Q, noting his predatory posture, the hunger in his gaze. "Is this guy in heat?" he muttered under his breath, equal parts disgusted and confused. "Humans, man. Their urges are all over the place, random as the weather. Spring makes sense, but this? Right now." He peeked again, watching the girl. She was fragile, barely holding herself together, but there was something admirable in her defiance. Still, Shui couldn't help but question. What does Master Q even see in her? She's so breakable. If I was into humans, which I'm not, I'd pick someone with a bit more durability. Not this delicate flower that could be blown over by a strong breeze. Master Chu's grip tightened around the knife as he loomed over the trembling woman. His voice dripped with scorn. "Suicide? You dare try to take the easy way out? You think you can threaten me with that?" He sneered, pressing the blade closer. No. First I'll have my fun. Then, maybe I'll let you die." From behind the statue, Shui rolled his eyes so hard he nearly dislocated something. "This guy thinks he's Shakespeare," he muttered, shifting his position to get a better look. Sure, Master Chu had some strength, but he clearly didn't win any awards for brains. The guy was too busy monologuing to realize the situation was about to blow up in his face. The woman's glare could have set fire to the entire temple. You forced me to break off my engagement, and you murdered Chenfun. You think you can escape me in death? I'll haunt you until your last breath, you filthy coward. Her voice was so filled with fury that even Shui, hidden as he was, felt a little twinge of respect. But as Shui munched on what was left of the mountain god's offerings, he misread the whole situation. A lover spat, he thought, taking another bite of a dumpling. Typical human nonsense. If it's not about food, why bother getting worked up? He chewed thoughtfully. Honestly, they just need a blessing. The mountain god should help them sort this out. Then they can leave, and I can finish my prayers. Suddenly, a loud crack echoed through the temple as one of the mountain god's stone hands broke off and crashed to the ground. Master Chu and the woman froze, turning in unison to stare at the statue. Their faces were a perfect mix of confusion and fear. Shui, on the other hand, felt his heart leap into his throat. Oh, wonderful. Just what I needed. Divine intervention. Master Chu's eyes narrowed as he shouted, "Who's there? Come out!" Meanwhile, the woman seemed to have lost all sense of logic and rushed toward the statue, falling to her knees in frantic prayer. Mountain God, save me, please save me from this monster! Her desperate pleas echoed through the temple, only for her prayers to be answered by a giant black snake. Shui slithered out from behind the statue, looming over the woman with his gleaming fangs bared. The woman screamed, her eyes wide with terror. "Oh, a spirit beast!" she shrieked, nearly tripping over herself to scramble backward. Master Chu, still clutching his knife, blinked in confusion. "Where's the spirit beast?" He glanced around, too dense to put two and two together. Unfortunately for the woman, her panicked retreat caused her to stumble straight into Master Chu's knife. There was a beat of silence as Master Chu stared at the blade lodged in her side, eyes wide in disbelief. I didn't mean to." His voice cracked as the woman collapsed at his feet, blood pooling around her. The minions outside rushed in, hearing the commotion. "Master Chu," one of them yelled, "did you already have your fun?" But instead of boasting about his supposed prowess, Master Chu was shaking, trying to explain what just happened. "Forget that," he shouted. "There's a spirit beast in the temple." His minions gawked, looking around in confusion. When they finally laid eyes on Shui, their faces drained of color. "That's a spirit beast," one of them stammered, backing away slowly. "But it's so huge." Master Chu, now fully grasping the situation, pointed at Shui with a trembling hand. "Get it! Don't let it escape! I'm an outer disciple of the snake-catching sect. This is what we do." Shui felt the cold sweat run down his scales. Snake-catching sect? Of course. Just my luck. Master Chu's minions, still visibly terrified, cautiously approached the statue, weapons drawn. "Come out, spirit beast, we know you're hiding." Shui could feel his panic rising. Great, either I fight or get turned into a pair of boots. His mind raced, but instinct took over. With a vicious hiss, he struck, swinging his tail in a wide arc. The force of the blow sent the minions flying, their bodies crashing into the temple walls like rag dolls. Seriously? Shui blinked, genuinely surprised at how easy it was. They're weaker than I thought. Master Chu, however, was frozen in place, watching in horror. Shui's dark aura seemed to expand, radiating death itself. Without a word, Master Chu turned and bolted for the door. "I'll alert the sect. They'll turn you into a pill." Shui narrowed his eyes, realizing he couldn't let Master Chu escape. One swift strike with his tail and Master Chu was on the ground, lifeless. Shui exhaled sharply, his body relaxing as the adrenaline left his system. "Well, That's one way to end it. He glanced around at the carnage, sighing. Was it the stolen food? Is that why this happened? Are you mad at me, mountain god? Guilt gnawed at him as he piled the bodies in front of the altar, offering them as a makeshift tribute. Here you go. In exchange for your forgiveness, please accept this offering. And maybe we'll throw in a blessing while you're at it. He lit the prayer sticks with his tail, bowing awkwardly. As the incense filled the air, Shui reflected on how things had spiraled. Maybe the mountain god wants me to cultivate faster. Maybe this whole mess was to push me to greatness. His tail flicked with renewed determination. The heavens are giving me a mission. I must endure hardship to become a beast, to be reckoned with. With that, Shui slithered out of the temple, vowing to train in his mountain cave. A week later, despite his best efforts, only half of his demon cauldron was filled. Ugh, he muttered, glancing at the barely filled cauldron. All this work and I'm not even halfway. I need something better than small beasts. Where's another pig demon when you need one? He sighed, gazing out at the quiet forest. Nothing but birds and squirrels. If only I could just wait for a pig to wander into my trap. That saying about waiting for rabbits has to apply to pigs too, right? His thoughts were interrupted by the sight of the boy from earlier, this time walking with a burly man. Shui watched curiously as they approached, wondering if the melon field belonged to them. But before he could make sense of it, the boy spotted him and with an alarming amount of confidence, grabbed a bag and rushed toward him. Shui quickly climbed a nearby tree, trying to remain unseen. The boy stopped beneath the tree and set the bag down. Hey, old black snake, I brought fish. They're for you. He turned and ran off before Shui could react. Shui descended from the tree, eyeing the fish suspiciously. Poison? He hissed, leaning down to sniff the bag. I'm not falling for that trick. But upon seeing the fish still wriggling, Shui's stomach grumbled. Whatever. If they're alive, they can't be poisoned, right? One taste, and Shui was hooked. Not bad at all, he muttered between bites, devouring the fish as the boy returned, mumbling something about how the old black snake really loved fish. Suddenly, a voice rang out. Boy, have you seen the old black snake lately? The boy standing there, staring blankly as the two snake catchers begin their dramatic inquiry about the old black snake. You know, because clearly in a world full of mythical creatures and magical beings, this one snake is the end-all be-all of problems. The boy's eyes flicker toward the golden plate on the man's waist and, oh look, it's the snake-catching sect. Because of course there's a whole sect dedicated to catching snakes. The boy remains silent as the man keeps pestering him about the snake, leading to the inevitable conclusion that the kid must be mute. Clearly, logic abounds here. Eventually, after what felt like a painfully awkward eternity, the boy admits he's never even seen this mystical old black snake, despite all the dramatic buildup. The man's companion, let's call him the sidekick in black, steps in to deliver the grand verdict. The kid knows nothing and they should really just leave. Suddenly the skies decide to contribute to the chaos. A bunch of crows takes flight from the top of a hill, causing everyone to whip their heads around like it's the most interesting thing they've seen all day. The two men stare in confusion and the boy inwardly cheers for the snake, hoping it escapes these bumbling fools. But alas, the situation escalates. They hear someone shout about the snake eating a person in the river. Yes, because when you're a powerful ancient snake, a quick snack from the local riverbank is just what you do. The snake catchers, because they clearly have the attention span of squirrels, ditch their investigation on the hill and dash toward the river, determined to catch their slimy prey. Meanwhile, the boy smirks, confident that Shui the snake is far too busy munching on the fish he generously provided earlier to even be in the river. Classic case of snake catchers chasing their own tails. Now, let's shift to Shui, the old black snake, The poor guy is having a day. He's up on that hill, grumbling about how the crows ruined his breakfast of eggs, not to mention one of them pecked him on the head. Seriously, can't a snake catch a break around here? He's slithering around, miffed about how the snake-catching sect is out for his blood. Again, apparently they think he's out here munching on humans, which, frankly, is a bit offensive. He's a refined snake. The boy denying ever seeing him? Shui just rolls his eyes, chalking it up to human weirdness. Anyway, Shui decides he's done with this nonsense and plans his grand escape to the mountains. He figures he'll be safe for at least a few months there, far away from the humans and their obsession with catching him. But because the universe hates him today, he swims toward the river and bumps into, wait for it, a giant homicidal eel. Because nothing says bad luck like an oversized slimy eel trying to eat you for lunch. Shui curses his misfortune and quickly sizes up the situation. The eel's injured but still determined to swallow him whole. Oh joy. Shui, realizing he's not in the mood to become eel food, transforms into his battle form, growing bigger and stronger. He delivers a tail slam straight to the eel's abdomen. Take that, sucker! The eel lets out a painful cry, and Shui even manages to take a bite out of it, grimacing at the texture. Slimy and gross, typical. But then, to add to his growing list of problems, Shui notices something weird. Why is the water on fire? Seriously, flaming water? What kind of twisted hallucination is this? Shui figures the eel's mucus must be messing with his head and starts chanting some incantation, trying to shake off the illusion. But when the illusion shatters, guess what's waiting for him? Yup, that same giant eel mere inches from swallowing him. Shui, in a burst of desperation, lashes out, slicing the eel in half with his golden-scaled tail. He looks down at the eel's severed body and wonders, with just the right amount of sarcasm, if maybe he should thank his lucky stars. Sure, his tail is strong enough to do that, but still, sheer dumb luck played a big part here. With the eel dead, Shui has enough meat to last through winter. Silver linings, right? He even finds a golden plate inside the eel's stomach and figures the eel had a snake catcher for lunch at some point. Convenient. He bows his head out of respect for the eel's contribution to his survival. Worse not, want not, right? He even tries to eat the demon core inside the eel, but it's too big to swallow. Classic problem for an overambitious snake, but before he can savor his victory meal, the snake catchers show up again. Because they just can't take a hint. They finally piece together that Shui isn't their river monster. Oh no, that was the eel. Real Sherlocks, these guys. But they're not giving up on Shui either. Instead, they decide they'll wait for winter when everything goes into hibernation so they can swoop in and hunt him down. Meanwhile, Shui has found himself a cozy cave to hole up in for the next few months. He's already hung his meat at the entrance like some sort of morbid decor. Satisfied, he's ready for some well-deserved rest, muttering to himself about the absurdity of his day. Because really, in the grand scheme of things, getting attacked by a giant eel and dealing with clueless snake catchers was not how he planned to spend his afternoon. But hey, at least he'll be warm for winter. And that's it for today. Until next time, keep your tails sharp and your wits sharper. See you in the next adventure.